If you've ever worked a job where people look straight through you, you know the sound. I'm about to describe flatware chiming, like tiny doorbells, for folks who never plan to open the door, lights low, check high, and the rules quiet but loud. That was Laurel and Ash on a Friday night in Austin, me balancing a tray, posture straight, like my grandma taught me aiming for table 14 when my manager slid in front of me like a closing elevator. "Not that table, Bennett," he murmured, that soft voice that bruises. They asked for a higher caliber of service. Yeah, that happened. The woman at table 14 watched the whole thing, thrift cardigan ponytail window seat, with the skyline that says, "You belong if the room decides you do." She lifted her hand, steady, polite, a little steel under it. "I requested him," she said, eyes never leaving mine. Mr. Vale's smile got tight enough to snap. Of course, and suddenly I had a chance to show up for someone who had just shown up for me. "Good evening, I'm Noah," I said. "Water's perfect," she answered, then added, "Rush. People who've been ignored know how to say your name like it matters." I clocked more than her tone. I recognized her. Riley Chen, the Fortune cover 2 months back founder who built an API security company out of caffeine mistakes and grit. Most folks see a cardigan and think broke. People like me notice the posture. Power sits in the spine before it sits in a suit. I also need to say this out loud so you understand the night the waitering was my cover too. I have a degree in early childhood education, a morning job at a community center, and a long memory for patterns. After my sister got pushed out of a hospital job over fit, I started documenting what I saw in nice rooms where the knives are soft and the bias is sharp. Small recorder, big spreadsheet, stubborn heart. 10 minutes into service, a little girl at table 8 hit DEFCON 1 bottom lip, trembling parents bargaining with dessert futures. I dropped to a knee at her eye level. "Hey, what's her name, Junie?" her mom whispered, like the room might fine her for loving her kid. "Junie, I said these peas are planets. This fork is a rocket land on 3 green worlds, and you win." She launched a pea into orbit, laughed. The table exhaled. The room softened. Right on cue, Mr. Vale's voice cut the air. "Bennett, you are not a babysitter." Loud enough to sting, quiet enough to keep his job. I kept my hands open and my jaw soft, because breaking costs more than bending. "Yes, sir." When I refilled water at table 14, Riley said, "Quick thinking like a note in a file. Kids are honest. They tell you what the room really feels like." "They do," I said, and it felt good to be seen. Then came the slow drip you only notice if it's been dripping on you for years. The sommelier ignored my pairing, repeated it as his own 2 tables over. A couple asked for a different server without eye contact. A busser I trained last week got the private room because his smile arrived in a lighter shade. You let it pass through you like weather, not because you're a saint, because you're stubborn, and because filing the storm beats arguing with the wind. Dessert turned the dial. A drunk at table 9 decided I was his bit. "Look at that," he said, voice renting space it didn't pay for. "He moves quick when the tips are fat." He hip-checked my elbow, a ramekin shattered sugar crust glittering like it wished it were diamonds. "Clean it, kid. That's why you're here, right?" The room went hush in that way where everyone is tasting their own courage. I knelt, cleaned, stood, all set, thanks for your patience, and ducked into the hallway for a 5-second lean against a cool wall. When I looked up, Riley's phone was angled down, not dramatic, just ready, like she was recording the sound of a room waking up to itself. I didn't flinch. Neither did she. Check came heavy with a tip that made my knees soft, and a note with a number. "If you care about more than surviving this," she said, "hold me tomorrow." I said I already planned to. You know what I mean. Morning came with coffee, a spreadsheet labeled Ellison Hospitality Group. Laurel and Ash time stamps names, who watched, who looked away. I called. Riley picked up on the second ring, cardigan voice gone boardroom voice in place. Riverbend Park, footbridge, 1 hour, bring what you don't want to lose. She arrived in trail shoes with 2 people, Jonah all angles and quiet, and Priya camera in her palm, smile in her eyes. No press, Riley said, just documentation. I laid it out. 9 black employees pushed out in 18 months on the same phrases. Not a culture fit, inconsistent demeanor, not aligned with our brand. Meanwhile, 3 white servers kept their jobs after no-shows and a full-on kitchen blow-up. I had clips. Vale steering the host a shift lead, telling us to avoid putting darker-skinned servers on the patio during peak hours, because the aesthetic matters for photos. The owner, Graham Ellison, on a staff call, saying our clientele expects a certain experience and it's our job to protect that. 421 hours logged, I said, 183 supporting docs. Complaint filed with the city 2 weeks ago, complaints disappear without light. Riley nodded once, then again. Okay, she said, let's give the tide something to carry. At 2 p.m., Riley walked back into Laurel and Ash not as a question, but as gravity slate suit that said, I buy buildings. Jonah hovered with a phone. Priya took a corner booth lens cap off. I came through the front door with a folder instead of an apron. Mr. Vale, Riley said at the host stand, how can we make today honest? She set her phone down and pressed play. Bennett, you are not a babysitter. This is a fine dining room. Heads turned, a server froze mid-step, Vale pinked up like undercooked salmon. Context, he tried. Here's context, I said, opening the folder. 9 names, 9 timelines, the same script. You didn't slip. You built a system. This is defamation, he snapped. Priya didn't raise her voice. Defamation requires a lie. We brought receipts. Riley's tone went soft, like surgeons go soft right before the cut. Call it what it is. Segregation with better lighting. People came for truffles and got a reckoning. Phones lifted, a couple stood to leave. Someone near the bar clapped once and caught their own hand. Vale reached for the phone. Jonah stepped in, not big, just sure. Don't, he said, and the room understood the angles had changed. I spread server charts with my name, Danny's Tyrone's, circled where we never touched the private room, no matter how many 5 stars we earned. I read an email where marketing suggested bright-faced service for patio nights, asked what bright-faced meant, then got dropped from the chain. We want excellence, Vale insisted, sweat drawing little maps down his temple. You want cover, I said. You want plausible deniability with perfect linen folds. The drunk from last night wandered in for lunch with a different woman. Saw me and grinned. Hey, Rocket Man, drop anything else today? I didn't look at him. I looked at Riley. She looked at me. I smiled. Not today. The room laughed, clean and sharp. 2 former servers stepped forward, Danny with a pixie cut. Tyrone in a manager badge from somewhere that knew better. He's telling the truth, Danny said, voice shaking, but brave. I have my termination letter in my car. We all got the same speech, Tyrone added. We weren't the brand. The hostess whispered that Ellison was on line 1. He'll wait, Riley said. For once he can wait. She finished it with the quiet you use to tuck a kid in after a nightmare. Laurel and Ash is off our vendor list. Ellison Hospitality won't see a penny from any company I advise. This goes to legal, the board, and a city attorney in 30 minutes. Vale deflated. You can't ruin me. I can hold up a mirror, she said. The weeks after moved fast because truth accelerates. City investigation opened, 5 more ex-employees came forward. Ellison Hospitality paused operations and posted the kind of statement that means we're sorry we got caught. Vale resigned to spend time with family, which is lawyer for buy. A local paper ran, "Servers say fine dining isn't for everyone, and they can prove it." I kept teaching mornings, answering too many messages at night, and one evening Riley called. "I've got a role," she said. "Director of Workplace Equity Initiatives, build it from zero. Write the playbook, I wish I had you in." I thought of 4th graders turning peas into planets, my sister now thriving, at a clinic that deserves her this room, that tried to shrink me into silverware. "I'm in," I said, "but I won't give up the kids." "Deal," she laughed. "We'll build around mornings." Her twins Mia and Theo met me at a picnic and asked if I could pour the lemonade forever. Kids don't say forever lightly. We're careful with each other, me and Riley, honest, curious, slow. Some nights the twins want pancakes and I say yes, and my whole chest expands. Some nights I go home to my cousin and the loud fan, and I fill another spreadsheet because you can build a new thing and still remember the old fight. Here's the part that keeps folks arguing in the comments, and maybe it should. Is pressing record the first step toward justice or the first crack in the glass of trust? Is a social experiment a clever way to find truth, or just another way to play God with people's lives? If the room is so dark you need a disguise to see, is the fix to dress up or to turn on a light? You tell me. Drop your take below. Tell me when you bit your tongue, and when you finally spoke, where you draw the line between calling out wrong and burning the place down, what you've seen in rooms like this, and what changed when you did. If this hit anywhere real like the video so it travels, subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and share this with someone who needs to hear that peas can be planets, and a 5-second pause can save your voice for the moment that matters.